Leping told Elizabeth, "I want to go outside and practice with Alpha. Is that okay?" He thought to himself, during the time of the rules, her moods fluctuate greatly, making her unhappy with everything. It's better for me to disappear on my own. Elizabeth, lying on the couch, glanced at him and said, "It's up to you." Upon hearing this, Leping stepped outside to practice with Alpha. However, he was surprised to find that Alpha was not there. He wondered, where did he go? He has been hanging out with Wangchai lately. Maybe they went out for a walk. Meanwhile, Alpha was outside with the robotic dog Wangchai. Hearing a strange noise, he asked Wangchai for help. As time passed, the strange sound grew louder and more frequent. Alpha turned to Wangchai and said, "There's a buzzing sound in my ears lately. It's making it impossible for me to sleep." Wangchai, unimpressed, asked, "What kind of sound? I don't hear anything. Are you just looking for an excuse to be lazy again?" Alpha quickly apologized and insisted, "I'm not joking, Senior Wangchai. There's definitely a buzzing sound. It's so annoying." Wangchai, suddenly noticing an anomaly on his radar, interrupted, "Be on guard, there's a suspicious sound coming from 3 kilometers away." It was Ruth Bader, a member of the Green Sword Adventure Team and one of the 6 pillars of the Dark Guild. She smiled to herself and thought, "I didn't expect to gather such valuable information. Everything is proceeding smoothly according to my plan. This is where the legendary hero and the Demon Queen Elizabeth live." Ruth recalled the instructions from Azathoth, the enigmatic leader of the Dark Guild who had allied with Lord Malfoy. He had commanded her, "If you want to gain more dark power, you must help me eliminate the one Malfoy is obsessed with, the Demon Queen Elizabeth." Ruth grinned, thinking, this mysterious figure, Azathoth, who formed the Dark Guild with Lord Malfoy, clearly harbors many secrets. Although I don't know where that sea of darkness he came from is, his ability to ascend instantly to the Demon King level proves his power far surpasses Malfoy's, but I don't care about their dynamic. I'll align myself with whoever offers the greatest benefits. This competition between the strong is a perfect opportunity to gain more for myself. She reflected on her unique skill, Fatal Attraction, which allowed her to charm and deceive enemies, even those much stronger than her. Even if Elizabeth is too powerful for me, the legendary hero is just a man. He'll be easy to control. Lost in thought, Ruth didn't notice Wangchai launching a missile attack. Startled, she dodged the powerful strike and turned to see her 2 goblin allies, both equipped with dark gear and elevated to demon sovereign status, killed instantly. Shocked, Ruth thought, these goblins were crucial to my plan. They were supposed to help me hunt down Elizabeth. What kind of attack was that? It was so fast. Before she could recover, a chilling sensation coursed through her body, as though warning her of impending doom. She turned and froze in terror as Wangchai pointed every weapon at her. His cold voice demanded, "Who are you? What is your goal?" Ruth trembled, realizing any movement or wrong word could mean instant death. What is this creature? A monster? A magic tool? Or something else entirely? She thought, terrified. It's scanning me. If it uncovers my secrets, I'm finished. Alpha, sensing the tension, stepped forward and tried to intervene. "Senior Wangchai, you're scaring the young lady. It's clear she's just a pitiful girl being hunted by monsters." Puffing up his chest, he added, "By the way, I am the right-hand man of the legendary hero, the true holy sword, Lord Alpha." Wangchai shot him a glare. "Shut up. Don't reveal too much information about the master. I need to analyze the suspicious party first." Ruth's mind raced. If they finish scanning me, it's over. I have to act first. Without hesitation, she activated her skill, Fatal Attraction, targeting Alpha. Alpha's expression shifted as he fell into a dreamlike state. In his vision, he stood side by side with the legendary hero Leping, fighting against powerful enemies. "What are you thinking about, partner?" Dream Leping asked with a smile. In the dream, Alpha saw himself as a powerful mentor, teaching Leping legendary techniques and swordsmanship. Together, they defeated countless foes, including the formidable Black Dragon. Alpha felt a surge of pride, believing himself to be the key to Leping's success. Both Leping and Holy Sword Alpha were overjoyed to have achieved something extraordinary. Their next target was clear, the Demon Queen Elizabeth. Together, the legendary hero, Leping and Holy Sword Alpha set sail for the demon continent to confront her. Upon reaching the demon continent, they finally stood face to face with the mighty demon queen Elizabeth. With determination, Leping wielded Holy Sword Alpha and successfully defeated her. Afterward, Alpha transformed into his human form. Leping turned to him and said, "When I was lost, you guided me. When I was conflicted, you led me. Thank you, my good partner." Holy Sword Alpha chuckled and replied, "No need to be so formal. This is the bond we share, my good partner." Meanwhile, Wang Chai was still under the effects of Ruth Bader's fatal attraction charm skill. In his trance, he dreamt of a happy life with his master, Leping, a life where Leping played with him, cared for him, and gave him more attention than Elizabeth. Completely captivated by the charm, Wang Kai lost control of his body, and the weapons he had aimed at Ruth Bader began to lower. Ruth Bader smirked triumphantly and said, "As long as desire exists, it's impossible to resist my charm, no matter how strong you are." However, she had underestimated Wang Chai. Unlike ordinary magical tools, Wang Kai was the very creation that had nearly defeated the demon queen Elizabeth herself. Suddenly, a system notification appeared on Wang Kai's interface. Virus intrusion detected. Scanning all system software. Virus location found. Starting virus removal. 13%, 58%, 78%, 99%. Patch installation complete. System vulnerability resolved. As the system rebooted, Wang Kai snapped out of Ruth Bader's charm. Instantly, he rearmed his weapons and aimed them at her. Ruth Bader froze in shock. "How is this possible? My charm didn't work?" Holy Sword Alpha, however, was still under Ruth Bader's influence and laughed uncontrollably, lost in his delusions. Wang Kai, now fully operational, glared at Ruth Bader and asked coldly, "Who are you? Why did you invade my system and attempt to make me happy? Even if you don't seem to be a direct threat, I can't allow your intentions to remain unclear. Eliminating you seems like the safest course of action." Ruth Bader, trembling with fear, thought, "How could my Demon King magic fail? I don't understand. Isn't Elizabeth in the legends also a Demon King? How am I about to die before I even get the chance to meet her?" Before Wang Chai could strike, Leping's voice rang out in the distance. "Wang Chai! Alpha!" Wang Chai immediately barked in recognition and retracted all his weapons, rushing to greet his master. Leping approached and asked, "I heard a commotion here. What's going on?" Ruth Bader, feeling relieved, thought, "No doubt about it. This must be the legendary hero. If he were an ordinary man, he'd be much easier to manipulate." She quickly decided to play the damsel in distress, thinking, "The trope of a hero saving a beauty always works. Let me satisfy that fantasy of his." But her plan failed. Instead of addressing her, Leping walked over to Alpha and asked, "Alpha, why are you laughing?" Alpha continued laughing like a madman, unresponsive. Confused, Leping slapped Alpha hard across the face and asked, "Are you okay?" Alpha snapped back to reality, looking dazed. "What happened?" he asked. Leping shook his hand after the slap and replied, "You scared me. I thought you'd lost your mind. Have you not been sleeping well?" Alpha scratched his head and muttered, "Ah, it's possible." Leping sighed. "Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Let's head back and chop some wood." Ruth Bader, still lying on the ground, waited expectantly for Leping to help her up. To her frustration, he didn't even spare her a glance as he started walking away. Realizing her plan had failed, Ruth Bader stood up, brushed herself off, and called out, "Excuse me, can you help me?" Leping turned toward the voice and asked Ruth Bader, "Who are you?" At Leping's home, Elizabeth was enjoying her snacks when she suddenly heard voices outside. Moments later, Holy Sword Alpha and Wang Kai returned home. However, they were not alone. Leping had brought Ruth Bader along. Upon seeing another woman in the house, Elizabeth's expression turned furious. Leping gently asked Ruth Bader, "Are you feeling any pain anywhere?" Ruth Bader, attempting to charm him, replied softly, "Well, I'm still a little dizzy. I'll just take some rest." Leping carefully laid her down on the couch. "Rest well," he said kindly. "I'll get you a cup of tea." Elizabeth, watching the scene unfold, couldn't believe her eyes. Her anger boiled over as she glared at Holy Sword Alpha and Wang Kai. Both of them, realizing her fury, stammered nervously, "We didn't do anything. Elizabeth, not listening, swung a punch at them. Alpha immediately transformed into his sword form, avoiding the blow, leaving poor Wang Chai to take the hit. The force of the punch sent Wang Chai rolling outside the house. Desperately trying to explain, Wang Kai called out, "You've misunderstood everything," but Elizabeth ignored him, landing another punch. "You picked someone up again, didn't you? You're ignoring my warnings, aren't you?" she shouted. Inside the house, Ruth Bader, observing the fiery woman, thought, "She's the legendary demon queen Elizabeth? I seem to have accidentally caused a quarrel between her and that weapon." A sly smile crossed her face. "If I can capture the legendary hero Leping, I can kill with a borrowed sword and fulfill my promise to Azathoth. It's time to capture him." She activated her fatal attraction skill to charm Leping. To her shock, it didn't work. Confused, Ruth Bader wondered, "Wait, what went wrong? My fatal attraction didn't work on him at all?" Leping walked over to her and offered a cup of barley tea. "Here, have some tea. It might help you feel better," he said kindly. Ruth Bader, furious at her failed charm, tried again, thinking, "That's impossible. As long as you're a man, you cannot resist it." For a brief second, Leping appeared captivated by the charm, but then he broke free. Looking at her with genuine concern, he asked, "Your eyes are twitching. Are you feeling unwell? Perhaps you were frightened by a monster outside?" Ruth Bader's eyes reddened in frustration. She couldn't believe her skill had failed again. Leping smiled gently and said, "Don't be nervous. Just relax. Once you've recovered, we'll help you return to the outer town." Ruth Bader reluctantly took the tea. As she sipped it, she felt a surge of magical power coursing through her body. Her entire being began blooming with pure energy, and she was immediately promoted to the 2-star Demon King level. Leping, noticing her reaction, asked, "Do you feel better?" Ruth Bader's body trembled as she cried out, "Ah, what did you give me to drink?" Dark energy began seeping out of her, and she screamed in pain. Panicked, Leping scratched his head and asked, "What's wrong? Are you allergic to wheat?" Elizabeth approached calmly and said, "It's obvious. She's infected by a contract with the Sea of Darkness, like Chi-Chi before." Leping turned to her, alarmed. "Then shouldn't you save her, like you did with Miss Chi-Chi?" Elizabeth scoffed. "Save her? Don't even think about it. You're asking me even though you know the situation. You gave her barley tea to force her to cancel the contract. What she's experiencing now is just the rejection process. Do you think I don't know?" Ruth Bader, trembling in agony, managed to gasp, "You're trying to use this as an opportunity to show off the greatness of the Creator?" Suddenly, dark insect-like creatures began crawling out of Ruth Bader's mouth. Elizabeth narrowed her eyes as Leping's expression twisted in disgust. "Is this the same magical insect from before?" he exclaimed. The magical insect spoke, addressing Leping and Elizabeth. "I was so careful this time. How did you find me?" It turned toward Elizabeth and hissed, "You and I have an irreconcilable grudge. I will curse you with my chaotic power." Before it could finish its threat, Leping grabbed his cleaning tool and obliterated the insect instantly. He sighed in relief. "That scared me to death. Luckily, it was just some dirt." Elizabeth glared at Ruth Bader and demanded, "What's your purpose in coming here?" Trembling, Ruth stammered, Please don't misunderstand. I was forced to do this. My contract with Azathoth was nullified so easily. This development has completely exceeded my expectations," she thought, panic filling her mind. Elizabeth's anger flared, her voice sharp. "Don't think you can lie to me." Releasing a wave of her immense power, she made Ruth's entire body tremble. This pressure, isn't she just a demon king? Why do I feel as small as an ant before her? Ruth thought, frozen in fear. Leping stepped between them, gently pushing Elizabeth aside. "Elizabeth has been in a bad mood lately. Don't mind her," he reassured Ruth. Turning to her, he said calmly, "Don't be nervous. You mentioned you were forced. Does this have something to do with the Dark Guild? Just explain to us slowly." Ruth saw an opportunity and seized it. Grabbing onto Leping's leg, she cried, "It's the Dark Guild joining hands with Azathoth of the Sea of Darkness. They forced me to work for them. I didn't want to do anything bad, so I ran away in secret, but I didn't know they'd plant something so evil in my body." With a soft and pleading tone, she begged, "Please, Sir Leping, save me from the Dark Guild." Leping, visibly flustered, said, no problem, but let go of me first. Let's talk about this in detail. Afterward, Leping provided Ruth with some clothes to change into. However, the outfit was too tight, emphasizing her figure. Elizabeth's face turned red with irritation. "Those clothes were made for me, not for you," she snapped. Ruth smiled and replied, "I'm just borrowing them for a bit. Don't be so stingy, Lady Demon Queen." Elizabeth, unfazed by Ruth's provocation, warned, "No matter what your purpose is, I order you to leave before tomorrow." Feigning sincerity, Ruth smiled and said, "To be honest, Lady Demon Queen, I was originally sent to assassinate you, but after being purified by Sir Leping, I've completely turned over a new leaf. Of course, if you insist I leave, I won't dare disobey, but if Sir Leping wants me to stay, I won't dare go against his wishes." Elizabeth's fury boiled over. "Shame on you. Do you think you can stay here and eat and drink for free? That's ridiculous. Do you really think he'll let you stay?" Ruth chuckled softly and replied, "As they say, a hero can only be tempted by a beautiful woman. Maybe it's because of my perfect figure, but looking at you, Lady Demon Queen, you probably don't understand that." Taken aback, Elizabeth glanced at herself and muttered, "You think this is what I look like?" She realized she had been neglecting her appearance lately. However, for the mighty Demon Queen, this was not an issue. Using her negative attribute conversion skill, she transformed back into her most beautiful form, leaving Ruth speechless. With a confident smile, Elizabeth asked, "Is this the perfect body you were talking about?" She approached Ruth, pressing her chest against hers. "Where is your confidence now? Look closely. You're nothing in front of this Demon Queen." However, Ruth's figure turned out to be more voluptuous than Elizabeth's. Shocked, Elizabeth shouted, "No way!" Hearing the commotion, Leping burst into the room. "What's going on?" he asked. As soon as Ruth saw him, she grabbed Elizabeth's hand and slapped herself, pretending to cry. "Sister Elizabeth, if I've done something wrong, I'll fix it." Elizabeth, unfazed by the act, thought to herself, "What is she planning now?" Leping looked at Elizabeth and asked, "Elizabeth, what does this mean?" Ruth, still crying, said, "Sir Leping, don't blame Sister Elizabeth. Although you saw me being punished, it must have been my fault." Leping tried to calm her down. "Don't cry. This is just a misunderstanding. Elizabeth isn't like that. Right, Elizabeth?" Ruth smirked internally, thinking, "You're falling right into the trap of self-justification. No matter how much you defend her, as long as I keep admitting fault, you'll side with me." Elizabeth, furious, retorted, "There's no misunderstanding. I just want to beat her up. Is there an issue with that?" Leping nervously called her name. "Elizabeth?" Annoyed, Elizabeth snapped, "What is it?" "Well," Leping said calmly, "I believe you must have your reasons for doing this." Ruth was stunned. Leping turned to her and said, "You must understand. Elizabeth is the Demon Queen. Her magical power is incredible. She likely saw some leftover evil within your body. Maybe her methods are a bit rough, but it's for your own good. Please be patient and cooperate." He then excused himself. "I won't bother you anymore. Carry on." Ruth, trembling in fear, tried to stop him. Her plan to use Leping as a shield against Elizabeth had completely backfired.